have to do some grocery shopping. I have been out of groceries for a couple of days, and like I always notice when I'm out of groceries, I like start just picking at things, eating stuff I don't necessarily want to eat, and then lose complete track of my goals. So I'm not gonna let that slide anymore. I'm gonna take you along with me and show you what I get at the grocery store. I've never tried these before, but I saw them. There's chocolate, like lemon cups or something. 72% dark chocolate, lemon cream cups, 4 grams of sugar per cup. Let's give it a go. This guy doesn't want to try them. I asked him if he wanted to. He said, yo, no. So that's okay. More for me. They're kind of tiny for 4 grams of sugar, like, but let's see, maybe they're really good. They're really good. They're really good. I just don't know. It's 4 grams of sugar, 2 grams of carbs. I don't know. Jury's out on it. I like that it's no artificial sweeteners though. That's good. Picked up this flank steak from the grocery store, so I'm gonna cook this up. I'm gonna chop up a little bit of cauliflower and then make roast that and maybe make like a little bit of a salad with it. Okay, so I cut my cauliflower up into little tiny bite-sized pieces, this, but even like smaller. And I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil, just drizzle in a little bit of olive oil, put some salt, some pepper, some paprika, and some cumin, and then stick them in the oven to roast while I salt my steak and get it going. Back when I did like low carb diets, everything had some hack to use like cauliflower instead of something. So it's like kind of nice to just use cauliflower for cauliflower. Some black pepper, salt. I just try to keep it really, really simple. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It doesn't have to be a ton of ingredients. And something that I found when I started like eating a little bit cleaner and not worrying about diet rules was that simple food was actually really good, satisfying, easier to make, cheaper to buy. I've not been able to get smoked paprika like in so long, so I just have regular paprika. Give it a little mix up, and then I have the oven on roast at 400. I've been feeling so much better eating like a little bit different carbs, not eating so much like rice, and I was starting to have rice like at every single meal, bread at every single meal, and I feel like my body just feels like it's running better without that. And I'm still eating carbs, but just not like refined carbs. A little bit messy, but it's worth it. Also halved a couple sweet potatoes. I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil down, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I'm gonna bake them flesh side down. My kids prefer red potatoes, so I'm making them red potatoes, and I just made some sweet potatoes for me because my body feels better with them. These, in case you were wondering, were a really bad idea. I just went to go get another and I realized I've eaten all of them. So that's 7 servings times 80 calories each times 4 grams of sugar for each one. Like, that was out of control. I should have just had a Reese's and it would have been less. My review on these are yummy. If you are a binge eater, if you have trouble with portion control, if you have trouble with stopping at just one, if moderation doesn't quite work for you, stay away from these. These are dangerous. I think about all the time, like, why do I have such a hard time with moderation? Because not everybody does. And I think some of it has to do with like growing up with like a lot of food insecurity, We relied on like food banks. My mom and stepdad were always like really hard workers, but my mom was a waitress. She had an 8th grade education. My stepdad was a mechanic and kind of like bounced from like place to place. He was kind of a crappy dude. And we were on welfare like a couple of times, which like when we were on welfare, there was more food. Like my mom would make home cooked meals, but most of the time we weren't because they were like, you know, hard workers, tried to get by with what we had and didn't want to like rely on food stamps. So we would eat like a lot of like pantry staples, like one of the most common meals at our house was buttered noodles. My mom would just take like noodles, we'd melt some margarine on it, put some like powdered garlic powder on it, and that was dinner. And that wasn't like filling enough, that didn't have the nutrition that we needed. And when we did have money, like if she got a really big tip one night or my dad got paid for like a side job, we would go to McDonald's and it would be like just the greatest night ever. We'd usually like rent a couple movies from Safeway and we would like eat our McDonald's, like played a little McDonald's Monopoly, like thinking about getting rich someday. And like that kind of became like celebration to me. And instead of thinking about food as fuel, I thought about it like being able to eat out, being able to have fast food and things like that made me feel successful. And so when I had my own money and I could eat out and I could do those things, number one, I would spend like a ton of money just stocking my pantry, my cupboards, my refrigerator with like processed food, a lot of like the name brand stuff that we could never ever afford. And then like going out to eat and like eat out for breakfast and lunch and dinner and snacks and everything, because it made me finally feel like I was successful, like I had something, like I was normal, like I was like everybody else. Rarely in my life has food ever been about nutrition. And I think for me, like that's the biggest part of healing my relationship with food, is recognizing that it's about nutrition. And there's this part of it that's celebration and joy, very much this emotional part of eating. But I can't use it as like this band-aid for everything. It has to be like a part of it, not the entire thing. So like if we go out to eat, I really try to like be in the moment and focus on like talking to my girls and laughing with them and just like enjoying the whole environment, talking to like our waitress or our waiter, and not focusing so much solely on the food, because I feel like the more I can hold on to that, put that with my like thought process, like, hey, like the joy of this is in like the interaction and everything else going on, the more I can reprogram my brain into like seeing those interactions as being like the joy and the celebration. I don't want to hate food. I don't want to be afraid of food. I don't want to have to worry like, oh, I'm gonna have a bite of this and it's, you know, bam, all gone again. I just want to learn how to like enjoy it without overly restricting and without like recognizing the role that it plays in my life. And I don't know if that's possible. A lot of parts of me feel broken when it comes to food, but I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop trying. I'm not gonna stop trying to be like my healthiest self, the best version of me, the version of me that's gonna be around for a long time, to be like an active mom, an active grandma, an active great grandma, God willing. But I really like, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible. I haven't accomplished it to this point in my life, and I'm 40 years old, but I'm gonna keep going. It gets really smoky though, so after I get a nice sear on it, I do it like for maybe 3 minutes on each side, and then I stick it in the oven to finish it off. I'm gonna make a little bit of sauce for the cauliflower. I'm gonna use some Greek yogurt and then a few other like seasonings and different things that I usually mix chickpeas with, but I think it's gonna be good.
Wait. No, not today.
Love some parsley. Oh shoot. Man, that kind of hurt. All right. Start that over. I think we're just gonna skip the sauce. I'm gonna still chop up a little bit of parsley and dill. Clean this up, use a different knife, and then just keep going with dinner.